And we are back on the show. We have a very special guest today, Sachin Sahel. He's an actor and also a Superman enthusiast. He's literally wearing a Superman hoodie as we do this. So thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, my pleasure. I loved hearing that microphone test that you're doing because I just heard Test's theme song. Test, test. This is a test. I know. You're we know about wrestling, and that was just like a flashback aggressively.
I was just going to say that I actually had a wrestling related question for you saved for the end of this interview. So we'll go back to that. And I also feel like we should probably just do an entirely separate interview talking about wrestling. Because as you can see, I'm wearing a Rey Mysterio Roots of
Oh,
Fight shirt right
100%.
now.
I just moved to Toronto, and I was gonna wear my Roots of Fight Iverson hoodie, but I couldn't, just to represent. But I couldn't. I don't have my stuff here yet. All my stuff, so I was really upset. So I had to
I,
rock the Superman.
I thought you were going to say it was like buried in a pile of laundry or something in the corner of your room.
Oh no, my Roots of Fight stuff is like pristine.
Yeah.
I leave that stuff pristine.
Yeah, it's really sick stuff. Shout out to Roots of Fight also. So you're kind of the perfect guy for this podcast because I talk about fitness and also about fandom. So you're big into fitness. You're also big into comic books and nerdy stuff like me.
Yeah.
But let's kind of jump back to the beginning for you in terms of your fitness. When you were
Yeah.
growing up, did you play sports or how did you get into exercising?
Man, actually, I was extremely overweight as a kid. I was like I think I was 5'4", 180,
Wow.
which is just and that was no working out. That was just a big boy who had a mixing bowl of Reese Puffs every morning for breakfast. And then, to be honest, I know we're gonna go back to wrestling every time. I watched wrestling, and then I loved it so much. I saw The Rock, and I was like, oh man, he like he's he's got a hue to him, and he's the champ.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's what I want to be. So then I started going to the gym, working out specifically because of watching The Rock and seeing somebody that it was brown skinned, being able to be jacked. Because up until that, before that, you didn't really see a hero in that position. So then I started hitting gym, played a lot of basketball because my cousin played a lot, and I was really learning as I go. Like I've never had a trainer or anything like that, but I read everything I can get a hold of. I had 55 different nutrition adjustments throughout the year, so it took a couple of years, but I definitely really I got aggressively into working out. Mostly just for basketball at one point. It was skewed away from my dreams of wrestling because I actually didn't think that was a fully viable option as I got older, especially with Indian parents. But yeah, then I just started getting into basketball training, and that was it's such a good focus. I think when you're training, it's so important to have a focus of why you're trying to accomplish this goal. If I'm trying to be fast and make sure I can dribble quick and still have my shot, I can't be humongous, but I've got to be agile and still put some muscle on my shoulders. I think that was always such an important thing for me. And then when I stopped playing basketball, I took about a year to be like, oh, what am I doing this for anymore? And that's when I
Yeah.
started getting into more of figuring out, well, what is bodybuilding? Do I want to look better? Do I want to just be healthy? What are the choices there? And I think it's just important to get a knowledge base, and that's what I did over the course of years, from going to obese to where I am now. I think it was just
Sure.
important to get a knowledge.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, obviously, kind of flipping. I mean, going, yeah, like you said, kind of 180 at 5'4" and to where you're at right now, right? So, the Rock, that's a funny one because he's like the most jacked dude. So I like that you went right to that. And that was my wrestling related question was like, I know you're a big wrestling fan. So how did that influence your fitness journey? So obviously that's exactly what started. And that was similar for me. I mean, I grew up a really big wrestling fan and saw these guys every week on TV and was like, I want to look like that, because I was a small, scrawny kid. So playing basketball, I always say that it's like super important to find something that you enjoy with fitness.
Yeah.
So obviously you were pretty passionate about basketball at that time.
Oh yeah. To this day, I think I feel
Yeah.
more comfortable dribbling a ball, walking down the street than I do normally. There's
Mhm.
just something I feel like I just feel alive when I'm doing that. So I always want to be in ball shape in case I just gotta, drop and play somewhere if somebody needs a fifth.
Just in case,
But
just
man,
in case the game breaks
you
out.
got into it, you actually wrestled. So you went like
Yeah.
the extra mile. Like I'm jealous and excited. Like the fact that growing up, you watch it on TV and you don't think it's a viable thing that you can do, but then people eventually that have done it, and you're that is the wrestling to me is the most badass thing to get into because that's just love. You must love it.
I think you have to, because I mean it's similar in the sense of acting. You know how hard the rejection is and just the
Yeah,
grind that you have to do. But in wrestling, it's like there's no union. So even when you do book jobs, it's like
yeah.
you're getting paid peanuts and you're getting beat up and dropped
That's
on your
what I
head all
mean.
the
It's
time.
just you're just doing it because it's like this is the best, and it's one of the greatest forms of I think. And people, when they sit me down, they're like, "Sachin, why do you like wrestling?" Because you have those people all over the world. I'm sure you've heard
Yeah,
those conversations.
for
But I'm
sure.
like, you don't know what if you don't like wrestling, it's because you don't know what art they're doing. You
Yeah,
don't know the art that they're creating. When you're a kid, you just watch and think, "Oh, this is cool." When you get older, it gets cooler because you realize what they're doing to make it cool,
yeah.
and that to me is like the epitome of what it is. But yeah, so it started with wrestling, and
Sweet.
yeah, then we got here.
So what type of exercise do you like to do nowadays? What do you mentioned that you kind of went into some bodybuilding style training after basketball.
Yeah.
What are you doing now?
So now I like a lot of I like my workouts to be pretty intense, so I don't want to stop moving during them. I like to maintain my endurance as much as possible, so it'll just be bouncing from exercise to exercise. What I've recently started doing before, it used to be I used to have a chest back day,
Mhm.
tries, buys, legs, and then shoulders separately, and just try to bounce back and forth. Because I found I'm lucky my
Classic.
chest grows pretty quickly,
Yeah.
so I can work it with my back and not worry about it being the body parts being too big. Because I find I have to work my chest in a way that doesn't make it like grow too much, because otherwise I look imbalanced. And I had to make sure with that. Now, what I started doing was I started doing splits, kind of like that, where I'll do a chest try day, but when I'll do one exercise, I will be running on the treadmill in between the exercise.
Mm.
So I actually stole that from Edge. I was watched his workout video on YouTube, um, and he was working out with Sheamus, and they were just doing a shoulder day, but running on the treadmill, going into shoulders, running on the treadmill, going into shoulders, and I'm like, okay, let's try that, and it's been
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like I'm dead at the end, and I think it was just so good for making sure your endurance stays up and your metabolism keep rolling. Because as you know, when you get
Yeah.
older, that metabolism's a bitch. Like when she goes
Yeah.
down, she doesn't want to come back. So you got to make
Sure.
sure that she's revved all the way.
I guess you definitely keep your heart rate up running on the treadmill in between shoulder presses. So how do you stay motivated to keep going to the gym? Because the gym is, like I always say, it's like brushing your teeth. Like you kind of got to do it all the time for it to really work. So how do you stay motivated?
I don't feel good unless I do it. So like now I'm lucky in that I've been doing it for so long that when I don't do it, I don't feel as good as when I do it. It's when you get an 8 hours sleep. You always work so hard to get that 8 hours because you'll feel so much better if you do that. If I wake up in the morning and I've spent half of my day not doing anything, I'll realize I don't feel as great because I didn't work out. I can't eat as much, can't eat as well. I can't. I find I get to eat a lot more too when I'm working out. Because
Yep.
actually during the pandemic, the first time ever, I took about 2 months really chilled. I mean, off is a hard thing to say. I was still like doing home workouts and all that stuff, but off in terms of like a lot less heavy load, a lot more relaxed. And I just found that I couldn't eat the way that I wanted to anymore because you start getting a little soggy, and I didn't like that. I mean, the same thing. So I just want to be able to do all these things, and working out affords me the ability to live my life the way I want to, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all the stuff.
Sure. So now, what's your typical week kind of like right now for your workouts? Are you back to doing more weights, or are you still doing more home stuff? I know the lockdown's been really on and off where you're at right now.
Yeah, in Toronto, it's pretty aggressive. So I am doing home workouts, and I got lucky actually about 2.5, 3 years ago. I found this boxing gym in Vancouver called Contenders, and I was training. I wanted to fight eventually. We started sparring a lot, started going in the ring, and made me have a new respect again for boxing. Once you start doing it and get punched in
Yeah.
the face, you realize how hard they're working in the ring when you actually start noticing the stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
So now what's great is I have an anchor at home to be able to do a lot of boxing workouts. And I find that my body really likes them.
Cool.
Agility wise, just going into 5-minute rounds of shadow boxing, into burpees, into push-ups, into jumping jacks, into squats, into more shadow boxing, and you can run that for an hour. I guarantee you do that for a month, you're going to be in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's specifically making sure that I sweat aggressively every day. If I don't feel good. And then take a day off here and there, if I feel like I've earned it.
It's nice to find new things that you like too. It's a couple of years ago, you kind of discover boxing and stuff. Like it's always cool to find new styles. Like I always tell people too, that it's like, you don't need to go to the gym and lift heavy weights 6 days a week if that's not your thing, right? Find something that you like, because then that's going to keep you motivated doing your exercise, every week. Whereas if it's something you're kind of forcing yourself to do, or something you're bored of, then you're going to fall out of it, right?
It's such a good point. People are like, I want to get into shape. What do I do? And then they find this sheet, or they go to somebody and they say, do this. But if they don't like doing that, if you don't find what your body loves to do, like I actually hate doing cardio, which is why I have to have my workouts I have to be doing stuff the whole workout.
Yeah.
Because my brain needs to be constantly running. If I just run on the treadmill for an hour, my body I will hate that. I'll never do it again. But if I lift treadmill, or for cardio, if I get to do basketball or boxing or some sort of actual thing where I don't feel like I can call this cardio, I can call this work or a workout.
Yeah.
Then I'm so much happier, and I find the things that I love. And people, you got to find what your niche is. Why are you doing this, and what makes you the happiest?
So you've mentioned a couple times now metabolism and food and working out so that you can eat more food and stuff like that. So what's your nutrition like these days? Do you have to keep it really tight? Do you feel like your metabolism is sort of slowing down? What's your average week kind of looking like?
Oh man, my metabolism is slowing down like crazy. So because like it's funny that we're doing this, because I just got back into shape after just December. Man, I was drinking some wine. I was having all this stuff. The first time in my life, I was like, man, I'm getting kind of big again. And it doesn't work out. Your body doesn't, you can't just cut calories and have it work out like it used to. Back in the day, you just, I cut 500 calories for a week, I'm back to normal, 500 calories a day. But now it's like aggressive workouts and eating healthy. I did keto for 2 years, which I loved. It was more for boxing, because I found when I was doing endurance stuff, I just felt so much more mentally on keto. I feel so much more mentally aware.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to lifting weights again, I don't think that worked for me as much, because I wasn't recovering as well as I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I think keto is really good for endurance stuff for me, in that I don't need much body fat for that, and keto really helps burn that off. But if I'm lifting weights, I need protein, I need carbs, and I need good fats. So right now, where I'm doing a little more anaerobic, like a lot of chin-ups, a lot of push-ups, and boxing, I'm definitely having 5 meals a day. Start in the morning with eggs, avocado, and some fruits. Then for lunch, I'll have a protein shake before a workout. Have a protein shake afterwards. Then I'll have chicken, broccoli, spinach, in some either corn tortillas or cauliflower tortillas, whichever I feel like there. Then after that, I'll have some sort of fruit, and then I'll finish off with some salmon, spinach, and broccoli. I usually don't have any carbs for dinner.
Sweet. So you've been on some really physically demanding shows, of course, notably many seasons on the 100. How do you prep physically for more sort of action sequences or action type shows that you're going to be doing?
I'm lucky in that. Well, unlucky. I would love to do more of that, but most characters I play are doctors, tech guys, stuff like that. I haven't really been able to yet play somebody that's has to be a little more physically domineering. I would love to. So up until that, it's mostly just me like wanting to look good on camera. So I'm just making sure I maintain the cardio, making sure everything looks good. But yeah, I would love to do a more physically demanding role, like I know we talk superheroes and stuff, but man, that first Captain America, I just want to work out for that role, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Some honorable, great superhero who's just thrust into, he's just a good guy thrust into a situation. I would love to play that, something like that, and then work out for it.
So you obviously are a huge Superman fan. You just
Yes.
mentioned Captain America, so I see a bit of a theme of the types of
For
superheroes that
sure.
you kind of like.
I'm for sure love Boy Scouts.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people that like Batman and Vengeance and stuff, and that's cool and everything. But these guys, like, I just like guys that do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
that's
They don't
sweet.
need a reason for it.
Yeah,
Superman, like, I'm going on a spiel. Superman came from a different planet from Krypton. We're not even his people, right? He lands here. He meets these parents. Uh, he's the alien. He grows up. He could rob banks. He could be on sports teams, do whatever he wants, makes millions of dollars. But he, being so powerful, works at a as a reporter just to be as close as he can to the problems, to figure out when it's to be there, because
yeah.
he knows it's his job because he's so powerful. That's what he's supposed to do. Because power usually corrupts, absolutely, but when people are given that power and they do great things with it, that's, I think, what's exciting to me.
I my favorite Avenger is Captain America, so I'm on the same page. So being that you're a big Superman
He
fan,
jumped on a grenade before he had any powers. He thought his troop was
man,
going to explode. He jumps on a grenade. Come on, get
love
out
it.
of here.
Nothing better than that. Being that you're a big Superman fan, earlier in your career, you did an episode of Smallville, and of course, more recently, Supergirl. So,
Yeah.
what was that like for you, getting the call that you got booked to do not just one Superman show, but later on a second Superman show? What was that like for you, getting those scripts and stuff?
No disrespect to the 100, but I will never top being on Smallville. I moved to Vancouver, but completely naive, only because I knew Smallville was filmed here.
Wow.
I knew that, oh, something was filmed here. Cool. Hopefully I'll be on that. Acting sounds fun. I didn't know anything yet. And crazy in that, you have moments where you're like, should I be doing this? Is this what I should be doing? Especially back then, I was just doing like one-liners. It was really, really fresh, really green. And the role, I auditioned for the last 10 episodes of Smallville, and it was ending. And I'm like, I'm not going to be on this show. This sucks. And then finally I go into the last audition. And by then I know the producers and directors. I've seen them for the last 10 episodes straight.
Yep.
I go in there, I'm supposed to do some reporter jargon. And I say, after my reporter thing, I'm like, hold on, a show that's lasted 10 seasons? You gotta be fucking serious. And I walked off just so I'm like, I'm throwing shit at the wall here. I gotta do something. And they all laughed and they loved it and I got it. Little did I know, which made my brother really jealous, was that my character then was the second last line on the show ever that turns him into Superman.
Wow.
And I got to act over, which if nerds would know this, I got to act on top of the John Williams Superman theme.
Wow.
So to me, I don't know how, like I run in and I say, somebody tell Perry White, just came in over the wire. There's a bomb in an elevator uptown. And he turns to Lois and he says, tell the minister I'll be late. Superman music is starting and everything. And he goes and he rips off his thing and that's the end of the show.
Wow.
So I'm like, I was like, I could quit.
That's pretty crazy. That's the rejection of the 9 episodes before that was probably worth it in the end anyway, to get to that last piece, because you wouldn't have had that. Yeah, you wouldn't have had that. That's amazing. I did an episode of Arrow years ago, and I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. I actually have a Green Lantern sleeve tattoo.
You showed me.
Yeah, seven different characters on my arm from Green Lantern. So when I did the episode Arrows, first episode of season 4, and I got the full script for the episode, and it was like, I'm fighting the Arrow, and in the background there's this billboard on this building of Ferris Air from Green Lantern, and then later in the episode there's a shot of, you see they're in a bar and it cuts and you see Hal Jordan's jacket from Green Lantern. So like super cool. Same thing. I'm just like reading the script like, oh man, like this is the coolest.
Like I'm in this universe now. Like the thing is, like, now you exist in that universe. Like that to me is nuts.
Nobody can take that away from you.
Nope, you can't. And on Supergirl, the first time Superman shows up on Supergirl, he lands into the DOA office. I'm the first guy that shakes his hand and I say, it's an honor, sir. So I'm like, there's no acting required.
Wow. This is like, it's kind of weird fate thing that you were the last guy on Smallville, and then you're the first guy to say hi to Superman on Supergirl.
It's crazy to think about. It just, you know what, I consider those, and I think people have to be more aware of these beautiful signs that we get, that you're
Yeah,
doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
sure.
So sometimes, this is like we said with wrestling, like with acting,
Yeah.
it can be so tough at times, because you're like, oh, what am I doing next? Like I've got to work on this. I got to do this. I want to be doing all this stuff. There's so much you want to do because you love it so much.
Yeah.
And there are times where it's not that you question doing it because you're going to do it till you die. And, I've lived in a basement suite with like spiders everywhere and still done it,
Mhm.
lived on my friend's futon for months at a time. Um, but you do it, but at times you're like, man, like, am I supposed to be doing this?
Mhm.
And then you get those signs, you're like, yeah, okay, I'll just
For
keep doing
sure.
this. Great. Thanks.
That's sweet. And you also did an episode of Arrow as well, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was that?
That was pretty close to the Smallville. I think it was season 1 Arrow. And I played Indian waiter, so it wasn't that
Nice.
substantial. But I think I was the only guy that didn't do the Indian accent, so that's probably why I was like, I'm not doing an Indian accent for this. It doesn't make any sense.
Did
So
it
I'm not.
say
And
to did it say to do an Indian accent?
it says Indian waiter. I'm wearing a kurta pajama. I'm in an Indian restaurant with all these
Okay.
like things around. But the age that I was, it just didn't make sense for me. I felt to do it because I'm like, this is my dad's restaurant for sure. I don't run this place.
Right.
We're not in India.
Yeah.
So I did do it.
Yeah.
And I just because I only want to that accent I'll only ever do, I think, if it's not gratuitous,
Sure.
because it can be used so gratuitously for a lot of reasons, as we all know. But that one did call for it, and they also agreed with that statement apparently, which I loved.
Making some good decisions in the audition room.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad they go along with it sometimes, because
Yeah.
sometimes you make a
Sweet.
choice and you're like, oh, you suck, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So you also got to work on the new X-Files,
Hmm.
which is kind of a cool nerd out
That was
moment
the
as
cool.
well.
Like we're talking about being in a universe. The fact that I'm in a universe with Mulder and Scully, to me, more than anything, my brother was mad. But he's like, "What? Come on, how? No!" Like we watched that growing up, and now,
Yeah.
like again, being guys that read comic books, watched TV religiously, almost grew up on it. To tell yourself is almost a surreal experience that I'm now in that world.
Yeah.
Like when people talk, I'm not watching XFiles as a person that watches XFiles anymore. My character Jack Budd exists with Mulder and Scully, helping
Yeah.
them out somewhere in an alternate universe where all this is real. That's what's happening, and I
That's
think that's
fun.
just the cool. Yeah,
That's super
really.
cool. Jumping back to fitness for a minute, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's maybe just starting out in their fitness journey, or just sort of thinking about getting into shape or going to a gym or starting that?
Um, that's a very good
I
question.
know it's a loaded question, but
You know, no, that's a great question. I would say figure out what your body likes and doesn't like first. A big issue that I had, and I still, because as your body changes, you still have these issues, is that when you're working out, there's a very basic pretense of finding what you like to work out. So whether it be lifting weights, whether it be cardio, whether it be some sort of boxing exercise, whatever it may be, find what you like there. But more importantly, find what your body, when you're eating, likes and doesn't like.
Mhm.
Because we don't realize that a lot of the problems we have is because our body is like, I'm kind of allergic to this, or
Right.
your body does not like gluten, or this what bloats you aggressively, because you're gonna feel like you're not gaining weight or you're not losing weight or getting in the shape you want to, because you have these intolerances,
Yeah.
or your body prefers different fuel. So I would say, like, take a month, eat some different things, see how you feel per week, and just find that out first, and let that tell you where you go after that.
That's great.
That's such an important thing to do, meal wise. Meals are so important.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about how this podcast is all about fitness and fandom. Something I've seen you talk about a little bit is fighting toxic fandom. So
Yeah.
Explain to me or anyone who doesn't understand what is toxic fandom. I've seen a little bit of this, and maybe what are you doing to sort of stand up against things like that?
Yeah, it's really it's really hard to navigate because you don't want to. I wanted to talk about it without trying to interject myself in the fandom because that's not my place. I just wanted to bring light to it, and talk about the fact that there are people who are not letting other people be fans the way they want to be. And that just means like stop treading on people. You can have conversations, you can have discourse, but when you start calling people like effing idiots, or you're like threatening their lives, or you're threatening the lives of people that I know, it's that's toxic. That's bad. You can't threaten people because they believe in a different thing than you believe. And I think that's just a toxic part of it. Like if you want to love one character and somebody wants to love another character, you can talk about why you dislike it. That's fun, and why you want to talk about it, but you can't start talking about the human being that's discussing this.
Sure.
You can't start being like, you're an idiot because you like this person, or whatever the case may be. And it's really escalated. Seeing it on the 100 over the last couple of years, yeah, I saw that escalate, and now it's basically every show, to be honest. That's just the bubble that I was in. So I created something called the Ships Alliance, which basically was just, we were going to give away a lot of stuff, do good things for anti-bullying charities, and if you ever felt like you needed a safe place to go to that was like away from all this junk, you would just come there and people would talk nicely to you no matter what they believed. And I was hoping it to be a mixture of different fandoms, which it did. And they would just go there and talk about, they would have positive discourse even if they disagreed. Just I saw too many kind of, and this is a word, this is something we shouldn't say lightly. There were death threats. We shouldn't see that often as we're seeing it.
Yep.
And that to me was just so gross. Or threats against somebody's, or bodily harm, or these things. Like, you're watching TV, that there's no place for that. We're all watching it so we can have an escape ourselves. And if you're causing people to have more stress because they believe in something, like what's the point?
Yeah, I love that. I've seen it a lot. I feel like in the Star Wars fandom community a lot over the last few years, sort of very aggressive. Yeah, so that's cool that you're doing that to sort of stand up against everywhere. That.
Yeah, I saw, like we said, TV and comic books kind of like made us who we are, in a sense. The things that we believe in, what we want to be, who we want to be, and they did so much for me. I don't want that, and I don't want somebody to not be able to have that opportunity because they leave, or they think that they can't voice how much they love something, or have it grow. So many people hate Superman. And I honestly, I understand why they think they should. He feels all powerful to him, to everybody. So they feel like he's a god. And if I was growing up and people would have done what they're doing to other people online about my love for Superman, who knows if I would have been able to express it the way that I did, sure. Wearing Superman shirts under my shirts, on top of my Superman shirts, or like, Superman jacket, all this stuff, and just being able to flex my love for this great superhero. And I want people to be able to do that, who I love in spite of his powers. He has his powers, but he does, even if he didn't have them, he would do it. Action Comics 784. Proof.
Incredible. Okay.
He goes and fights under a red sun and saves an entire planet, and basically rips off a Superman costume and saves everybody. He's bloody, he's beaten, and he gets an entire planet to rise up against a tyrant that he could normally kick with his finger.
I love that you're quoting specific issues. That's badass. We got a real Superman fan on the show here. So we're going to go through a little speed round of some fitness and comic book related questions. Okay. So favorite superhero besides Superman or Captain America? Because you've already talked about those two. Who's your favorite superhero besides those two?
That's great.
Any universe. It's a speed round, so you're not supposed to think that hard.
The Scarlet Spider. Riley.
Ben Riley, badass. Okay, Clone Saga reference. That's badass.
Because he's not really the clone, and he still maintained. He's like, no, that's his life now. This is my life. That was the choice. I'm done. Ben Riley, Scarlet Spider, also a badass costume.
So good with the jean jacket. So good. I
really want that jacket, that blue shirt.
I was at a few years ago. I'm interrupting the speed round to tell this story, but I was at the Arrow Halloween party a few years ago, and someone was dressed as the Scarlet Spider, and I was like, "This is the greatest costume I've ever seen." And I have no idea who it was because he was in a full mask, but I was chatting with him about Scarlet Spider.
True, Ben Riley.
So whoever that was, I love it. Favorite Favorite chest exercise?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good one.
Getting real specific.
Yeah, favorite chest exercise, and I'm gonna tell you like the one that's done the best for me. I mean, I love a incline cable,
Mm-hmm.
but diamond push-ups.
Okay.
If they mold your whole chest, your upper shoulders, and your tries in the best way. So at home, they've actually done such an amazing job of sculpting. Besides growth, diamond push-ups, unbelievable.
Growth and sculpting. Best Marvel TV show?
Right now, it has to be WandaVision. This show
It's
is
such a cool show. Such a cool
You know
show.
what? I just love when they trust the writers to give us something insane and have
Yeah.
us just have to like each week we're getting something and we have no idea what's going on. I love that. Don't tell us anything.
I wish I could have been in the pitch meeting when that show was first described because it's so weird. Favorite cheat meal?
Reese Puffs, a bowl of Reese Puffs.
You keep talking about those Reese Puffs. Favorite non-Marvel or DC comic book?
Non-Marvel or DC comic book? I don't even know what's non-Marvel or DC.
Image Comics, Valiant Comics. There's a whole bunch of independent ones. I say Image is probably the most popular one.
Yeah, who's on that?
Spawn, Savage Dragon.
Oh, Spawn is awesome.
Spawn is awesome.
I'm going to say Spawn.
Okay, you're choosing Spawn. Sweet.
This one.
Favorite fruit?
Bananas.
Bananas. Dream superhero role for you?
It has to be Superman.
Has to be Superman. The next reboot, we got our guy. Best
Captain America or the Scarlet Spider.
Okay. Okay. Any of one of those three. What's your favorite warm up to do when you go to the gym?
I now have fallen in love with foam rolling.
Foam rolling. Okay, great. I love it.
It's made me a different human.
Who's the worst superhero or villain? Like your least favorite?
Least favorite.
Dumbest superhero or villain.
And I'm absolutely sorry to absolutely everybody because this is going to be really upsetting. The Penguin.
Oof.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You're Batman. This is a penguin. This guy can't walk fast. He's shooting you with umbrellas. I don't know. You're Batman. You've stopped. Like, I granted you're stopping a clown, a guy who tells you riddles, all these things. But this is a penguin.
Fair.
I know Oswald Cobblepot, smart, all this stuff, but come on, man.
Although I think isn't Colin Farrell's playing the Penguin in the new Batman, so maybe he'll reinvent this.
I'm seriously
waiting
hoping
to see it. Although I do have a soft spot for Danny DeVito's Penguin. I love Batman Returns in sort of a cheesy way.
Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the Penguin. I just think this is somebody that should be beaten in the first 2 minutes of the movie.
Fair. Okay, final question. Favorite wrestler besides Brady Malibu?
Oh, besides Brady Malibu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We already know you would have chosen me.
Yeah, no question. But the Rock is my guy. Followed closely. Yeah, I'm gonna give you top 5 just so I can shout him out.
Okay.
The Rock, Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Mr. Perfect, and who will be number 5?
It's a great lineup so far. This is an all 90s lineup. I love it.
I loved this time of wrestling.
Yeah.
So hardcore. It was just too good. Underrated, I think, to this day is Farouk.
Okay. Ron Simmons.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Ron Simmons. Let's give the real name. Just man, he was doing some shit back in the day you should not have been able to do, and he pulled it off. And then guys that he sold The Rock to in the nation in such a beautiful way. Like that sold The Rock, got him over aggressively by being the opposite leader.
Totally.
I rewatched that so often and just watch his acting work besides his wrestling work.
Yeah, he's great. Amazing. I think I need to have you back on the show at a separate time to talk specifically wrestling, because I think we could talk wrestling for many hours.
For
So
hours.
let's get you a few plugs in here. Where can we find you on social media?
Well, that's a good question. My Twitter and Instagram are different. So there's Sachin. One of them is Sachin_Sahel, and the other one is just Sachin Sahel. A fan took my Twitter years ago, and so I
Oh
had to, and I
man.
wasn't getting back to them. No, it's nice. It's like, I mean, that's first world problems.
So which is Twitter
So
and which is Instagram? Which has the
I
underscore?
think, I think Sachin_Sahel is Twitter, and I think Sachin Sahel is Instagram.
Okay.
Because Twitter is the one that I couldn't get for myself, because it's sitting there in the ether somewhere with no tweets or anything. Somebody's got it and never used it.
Unreal.
Then I'm actually happy about it. I'm like, you go, it's yours.
I'm just upset they haven't even done anything with it. At least make a fan page. Or
if I'm this slow on the uptake, like, they deserve it.
Fair.
If you hear this, I would love to have it back. Thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on.